Daniel had only met his grandfather twice, once as a child, once at the funeral of someone else. The old man was distant, cold, but brilliant. A master clockmaker who'd lived alone in a massive countryside home filled with gears, brass, and silence. When he passed, the will was simple. The house, and everything inside, would go to Daniel. No explanation, no conditions, except one handwritten note left in the foyer. Never stay in the house at midnight. Daniel laughed when he read it. He figured it was some dramatic family quirk. He stayed anyway. The house smelled of old wood, oil, and dust. Clocks of every shape covered the walls. Grandfather clocks, mantel clocks, cuckoos, pocket watches. Some ticking, some frozen. One had no hands. One ticked backwards. By 11:30 p.m., he was on the couch with a blanket and a book. The house creaked now and then, but nothing unusual, until the moment the old long case clock struck 12. And then, every single clock in the house began to tick. All at once, same rhythm, same intensity, even the ones without batteries, even the broken ones. The walls vibrated. The sound was overwhelming. Tick, 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 tick. Daniel stood slowly, and then he noticed something else. The front door, unlocked moments ago, wouldn't budge. Behind him, up the stairs, a single chime rang out. Not 12, 13. Daniel stood frozen in the hallway. The ticking was relentless. It filled the air like pressure, like a heartbeat coming from the walls. He tried the door again, locked. No key, no bolt. It just wouldn't open. He turned around slowly. Every clock, on the walls, the mantel, the shelves, ticked in perfect sync. And the sound wasn't just noise, it was measured, intentional, watching. Then the old grandfather clock in the hall let out a groan. Not mechanical, human. Daniel stepped backward. From upstairs, the 13th chime echoed again. Louder, sharper. It didn't come from a clock. It came from inside the walls. He grabbed his phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, no power. The house had shut itself off. And then, from the far end of the hallway, a new sound began. A slow, dragging step. One at a time. Down the staircase. Not fast, not threatening, just timed. With every tick, tick, step, tick, step. He turned to the mirror above the fireplace, and for a second, just one, he saw someone behind him, wearing his grandfather's coat, face made of brass, smiling. Then the lights flickered out, and the clocks kept ticking. The next morning, the clocks were silent. Power had returned. The front door opened as if nothing happened. Sunlight poured in like the night before had been imagined. But Daniel knew it hadn't been. He found scratches in the wood on the stairs, evenly spaced, as though something had been dragged down them. And on the floor beneath the hall mirror, a brass gear, too large for any of the clocks he'd seen, too old, still warm. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat in the kitchen, lights on, coffee cold. Every hour, he walked the house, checked the clocks, checked the mirrors. Nothing. Until 11:59 p.m. The moment the minute hand struck 12, they all ticked again, like one heartbeat shared by 1,000 metal veins. And then, this time, footsteps inside the wall, soft at first, then faster, then still. He pressed his ear to the plaster. On the other side, something breathed, low, slow, human. He backed away, following the noise up the stairs to a section of the hallway with no doors, just a stretch of wall where the ticking grew louder and louder until, click, a thin vertical line split the wall open like a hidden seam and revealed a door, unlabeled, unpainted. He opened it. Inside, dust and gears covered everything, and in the middle of the floor, a clock with no hands. Its face was a mirror. And in the reflection, Daniel wasn't alone. Daniel didn't look away from the mirror. Not at first. In it, he stood alone. But something behind him, just behind, was moving. He turned. Nothing there. Just the handless clock and the cold, quiet room. He stepped inside. The door shut behind him. Gently, automatically. And suddenly the ticking stopped. On the desk in the far corner sat an old leather journal, bound with twine. His grandfather's handwriting, spidery, precise, filled every page. Pages of dates, times, names, each entry like a scheduled task. March 14th, 12 a.m., Harold W., accepted. May 9th, 12:13 a.m., Florence B., rejected. July 22nd, 12:13 a.m., D. Whitmore, prepared. His eyes froze. August 18th, 12:13 a.m., Daniel H., circled. Replacement confirmed. Beneath it, just one more line. The 13th hour chooses who stays. Daniel's chest tightened. His name wasn't written like the others. It was carved in, etched into the paper with something sharp, permanent. He heard something behind him. Not a step, not a voice. A winding key turning slowly in the dark. And then, behind the walls, the ticking started again, faster, counting down. Daniel didn't sleep. He didn't even try. He kept the journal open in front of him, the words blurring as the night deepened. The clocks were ticking again, but not all at once now. They were ticking in patterns, like they were speaking. Morse code, rhythm, language. Every few minutes he heard whispers that matched the timing, low and layered, like a dozen voices stacked on top of one another. Wind us, feed us, become us. He tried to unplug the clocks, tear batteries out, cut cords. Nothing stopped them. Worse, some reappeared. He'd destroy one in the kitchen, only to find the exact same clock ticking beside his bed. The house was breathing now, shifting. Walls moved slightly when he wasn't looking. Doors opened to rooms that didn't used to be there, and every mirror, it no longer showed him. Only gears turning where his heart should be. And behind him, always watching, a figure in his grandfather's coat. Daniel shouted into the hallway, "What do you want from me?" And every single clock in the house stopped. Silence. Then from every room at once, the same voice replied, "We want time." 12:12 a.m. Daniel stood in the center of the house. Every light was out, every clock was ticking, and all of them pointed to the same thing. 1 minute to go. The journal page with his name pulsed faintly in the candlelight. He held it tight, as if tearing it could undo what was coming. But the moment the second hand reached 12:13 a.m., everything stopped. No ticking, no humming, no creaking floorboards, just silence. So loud it buzzed in his ears. Then, a door opened, not one he'd ever seen before. It was at the end of a hallway that didn't exist yesterday. He stepped through. The air was thick with dust and something older. Gears lined the walls. Cogs spun without power. Chains moved in rhythm, dragging behind the walls like veins pumping something not blood. At the center of the chamber, a tall figure of brass and black glass. Its head turned slowly. Face made of mirrored clockwork. No eyes, no mouth, just hands, ticking. It raised one arm and pointed at Daniel. The voice came not from it, but from inside him. Time is kept with blood. And suddenly, Daniel couldn't move. His body pulsed in rhythm with the ticking again. Tick, tick, tick. And behind him, 1,000 clocks ticked in sync. Daniel awoke sitting upright. His head ached. His hands were cold. The air around him smelled of oil, brass, and ash. The house was quiet again, but not empty. Every clock was ticking softly, peacefully, almost proud. He walked past a mirror in the hallway and stopped. His reflection didn't move. It stood still, eyes locked with his, smiling. He blinked. The reflection didn't. Then he noticed the second hand on the wall clock beside him. It wasn't ticking forward. It was pausing, waiting for him to move. When he took a step, tick. Another step, tick. He opened the front door. Sunlight poured in, but outside, every person on the street was frozen. Mid-step, mid-blink, mid-breath. He turned slowly. The house behind him ticked louder, and in his pocket a new winding key. His fingers curled around it. Instinctively, like they'd always belonged to someone else, someone who kept the clocks, someone who never left. And from deep inside the house, his grandfather's voice whispered, "Welcome, timekeeper."